following may contain controversial and outright provocative content, which isn't a testament to an actual truth and can therefore be a pure fiction. Viewer discretion is advised. Reader's Digest, July 1982. Missing 100,000 children a year. The figures are estimates, but the few known facts are appalling. Thousands are murdered annually. The number of missing children is rising, and no one is keeping an accurate account. The Finders is a CIA front established in the 1960s. Members are specially trained government kidnappers with top clearance and protection in their assigned tasks of stealing children, torturing and sexually abusing them, sometimes involving them in satanic orgies, bloody rituals and murder of other children with the slaughter of animals. The Finders are known sexual degenerates who use a fleet of unmarked cars to grab targeted children from parks and schoolyards, many times using their own child members as decoys. They lure the innocent children away from the crowd close to their vans. The adults inside grab the children, drug them and transport them to a series of safe houses where they await their ill-fated end. They are then used in ceremonies. The children are either murdered and sacrificed for body parts, or they are sold as sex slaves, auctioned off at various locations in the Northern Hemisphere. In the past, they have been auctioned off near Las Vegas, Nevada and Toronto, Canada, Lincoln, Nebraska, Michigan and Houston, Texas. Marion David Petit, the leader of the cult, is an identified pedophile, homosexual and CIA officer. His son was a former employee of a CIA proprietary firm, Air America, which was notorious for smuggling drugs destined for the United States out of the Golden Triangle into Saigon during the Vietnam War. December 2nd, 1987. This office was contacted by Tennessee Police Department on February 5th, 1987, who requested assistance in attempting to identify 2 adult males and 6 minor children, all taken into custody the previous day. The men arrested and charged with multiple kinds of child abuse were being very evasive with police in the questions asked of them pursuing the children and their condition. This agent contacted SSA, Bob Merrill, RAC Reston, Virginia, and requested telephone numbers and names of police persons in area police departments in an attempt to follow up on 2 leads which were a Virginia license number and that the children had commented about living in a Washington, D.C. commune. Subsequently, this office received a telephone call from the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department inquiring about the men and children. This office put the MPD and the TPD in contact with each other. On Thursday, February 5th, 1987, this office was contacted via telephone by Sergeant John Van Meter of the Tennessee Police Department. Sergeant Van Meter requested assistance in identifying 2 adult males and 6 minor children ages 7 years to 2 years. The adult males were tentatively identified by TPD as Michael Hooligan and Douglas Emmerman, both of Washington, D.C., who were arrested the previous day on charges of child abuse. The police had received an anonymous telephone call relative to 2 well-dressed white men wearing suits and ties in Myers Park, Tennessee, apparently watching 6 dirty and unkept children in the playground area. Hooligan and Emmerman were near a 1980s blue Dodge van bearing Virginia license number, the inside of which was later described as foul-smelling, filled with maps, books, letters, with a mattress situated to the rear of the van, which appeared as if it was used as a bed, and the overall appearance of the van gives the impression that all 8 persons were living in it. The children were covered with insect bites, were very dirty, most of the children were not wearing underwear, and all the children had not been bathed in many days. The men were arrested and charged with multiple counts of child abuse and lodged in the Leon County Jail. Once in custody, the men were somewhat evasive in their answers to the police regarding the children and stated only that they both were the children's teachers and that all were en route to Mexico to establish a school for brilliant children. The children tentatively were identified. The children initially indicated that they lived in tents in a commune in the Washington, D.C. area and were going to Mexico to go to a school for smart kids. This office contacted the office of the RACDC and spoke with SSA Bob Harold. This agent requested telephone numbers and names of police persons in area departments that might be aware of said activities described by the children and to follow up on the leads, which were the Virginia license number and a check on the men's names with local law enforcement. A short time later, this office was contacted by Detective Jim Bradley of the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. Bradley indicated that the case here in Tallahassee appeared to be strongly related to a case he was currently working in the Washington, D.C. area. He stated that the actions of the two men in custody in Tallahassee relative to the children just might give his case enough probable cause for search warrants to search premises occupied by a cult group called the Finders. This agent directed Bradley to telephone TPD and discuss with police directly any activities forthcoming relative the instant case. At this time, it was determined that there was no customs violations found to exist, and therefore this case is being closed pending receipt of additional information. 2nd of July, 1987. Special Agent. Custom Corporation Interest in Tallahassee, Washington MPD Child Abuse Investigation. On Thursday, 2nd of May, 87, the D2 agent SSA Bob Harold received a call from SSA Walter Critlow, USCS Tallahassee, Florida. SSA Critlow was seeking assistance in contacting an appropriate local police agency to coordinate a child abuse investigation in which the Tallahassee Police Department, SSA Critlow, further requested assistance in checking some names, addresses and a vehicle through the Customs Child Pornography Unit database, and stated there was some suspicion of the subject being involved in supplying children for the production of child pornography. Further, he was informed by the Tallahassee Police Department that the children may have been en route to Mexico from the Washington, D.C. area. The possibility of customs interest in the investigations due to possible violation of the Child Protection Act of 1984 and the alleged nexus with the U.S.-Mexican border were discussed and agreed upon. SSA Critlow related the following background information. SSA Critlow was contacted by the Tallahassee Police Department for assistance in identifying 6 children and 2 adults taken into custody in the Tallahassee area. U.S. Customs was contacted because the police officers involved suspected the adults of being involved in child pornography and knew the Customs Service to have a network of child pornography investigators and of the existence of the Child Pornography and Protection Unit. SSA Critlow stated the 2 adults were well-dressed white males. They had custody of 6 white children, boys and girls, ages 3 to 6 years. The children were observed to be poorly dressed, bruised, dirty, and behaving like animals in a public park in Tallahassee. The police were notified by a concerned citizen, and all 8 persons were taken into custody. The subjects were living out of a white 1979 Dodge van, Virginia's license number. Upon being taken into custody, the adult white males refused to cooperate, one of whom produced a business card with a name on one side and a statement on the other. The statement indicated that the bearer knew his constitutional rights to remain silent and that he intended to do so. Upon interviewing the children, the police officers found that they could not adequately identify themselves or their custodians. Further, they stated that they were en route to Mexico to attend a school for smart kids. SSA Critlow was further advised the children were unaware of the function and purpose of telephones, televisions and toilets, and that the children had stated they were not allowed to leave indoors and were only given food as a reward. After receiving the request from Tallahassee, SSA Harold contacted me while I was on official business at Customs headquarters. He requested that I conduct computer checks on the Customs Child Pornography Unit database. The checks were to be conducted on the names, addresses, and a vehicle provided by SSA Critlow. After conducting the computer checks, I made direct contact with SSA Critlow to inform him that all the checks were negative. At that time, I was informed by SSA Critlow that the Tallahassee police had discovered large quantities of records, to include computer disks and a US passport in the van. For some of these records, the police had obtained tentative identification of the 2 adults and partial identification of the children. Furthermore, the two Washington DC addresses had been discovered through these documents, one of which was verified through the vehicle registration. I advised SSA Kritlow I was leaving headquarters and he would be receiving a response to the remainder of his request from SSA Herald. I then left as stated and proceeded to conduct other business in the district. A short time later, at approximately 11:30 a.m., SSA Herald contacted me by radio and advised me that Detective Jim Bradley of the Washington DC Metropolitan Police Department was interested in the information provided by SSA Kritlow, was in contact with TLC and would very probably be conducting search warrants in the area later in the day. He also informed me that U.S. Customs was invited to participate due to the continuing possibility of violations of law enforced by the Customs Service. As I was already in Washington, I terminated my other business and proceeded to make contact with Detective Bradley, Intelligence Division MPD. Upon contacting Detective Bradley, I learned that he had initiated an investigation on the two addresses provided by the Tennessee Police Department. During December of 1986, an informant had given him information regarding a cult known as the Finders. An informant had given him information regarding a cult known as Finders, operating various businesses out of warehouse, and were supposed to be housing children. The information was specific in describing blood rituals and sexual orgies involving children, and as yet unsolved murder in which the Finders may be involved. With information provided by the informant, Detective Bradley was able to match some of the children in Tennessee with the names of children known alleged to be in the custody of the Finders. Furthermore, Bradley was able to match the tentative ID of the adults with known members of the Finders. I stood by while Bradley consulted with AUSA Harry Boehner and obtained search warrants for the two premises. I advised acting RSC SSA Tim Holloran on my attention and accompany MPD on the execution of the warrants, and received this permission and was joined by SSA Herald. During the execution of the warrant, I was able to observe and access the entire building. I saw large quantities of children's clothing and toys, the clothing consisting of diapers and clothes in the toddlers to preschool range. No children were found on the premises. There were several subjects on the premises. Only one was deemed to be connected with the Finders. The rest were renting living space from the individual. He was identified as Stuart Mills Silverstone. Silverstone was located in a room equipped with several computers, printers, and numerous documents. Cursory examination of the documents revealed detailed instructions for obtaining children for unspecified purposes. The instructions included the impregnation of female members of the community known as Finders, purchasing children, trading, and kidnapping. There were text messages using MSC account numbers between a computer terminated believed to be located in the same room and others located across the country and in foreign locations. One such telex specifically ordered the purchase of 2 children in Hong Kong to be arranged through a contact in the Chinese embassy there. Another telex expressed an interest in bank secrecy situations. Other documents identified interest in high-tech transfers to the United Kingdom, numerous properties under the control of the Finders, a keen interest in terrorism, explosives, and the evasion of law enforcement. Also found in the computer room was a detailed summary of the events surrounding the arrest and taking into custody of the 2 adults and 6 children in Tallahassee, Florida on the previous night. There were also a set of instructions which appeared to be broadcast via a computer network which advised participants to move the children and keep them moving through different jurisdictions, and instructions on how to avoid police attention. One of the residents was identified as a Chinese national due to the telex discovered referencing the Chinese embassy in Hong Kong. He was fully identified for future reference. He is in the US as a graduate student in the anatomy department of Georgetown University. During the course of the evening, I contacted Sector 4, initiate a TECS check on Silverstone, and initiate an archives checks on him for the last 4 years. I also contacted SSA Holloran to keep him advised of the proceedings, and asked for and received permission to contact SSA John Sullivan of the CPPU to query some names through the CPPU database. SSA Holloran told me he would call Southern Region headquarters to keep them posted on the proceedings as well. I later contacted SSA Sullivan for the stated purposes, and in the discussion that followed, I gave him some background on the purpose of the request. I advised him that the information was not for dissemination at headquarters. That region was being notified, and that region would probably contact headquarters later if deemed necessary. SSA Sullivan assured me that the information would go no further until official notification was made by region. No positive matches were obtained from the CPPU database. I was later joined by SSA Herald. SSA Herald advised me that there were extremely large quantities of documents and computer equipment at the warehouse, and that MPD was posting officers inside the building there and sealing the buildings until morning, in which a second warrant for that premises would be obtained and executed. SSA Herald also advised me that the news media had been notified and had been waiting for the execution of the warrant at the 4th Street address. Detective Bradley later stated that the MPD public information officer had been contacted by a TLC reporter. When it became apparent, the PIO had no information on the search warrants. The reporters contacted local media representatives, and a check of public records containing the affidavits for the search warrants. The reporter contacted local media representatives, and a check of public records containing the affidavits for the search warrants disclosed the locations and purpose of the warrants. Detective Bradley surmised that someone on the TLC police department was the original source of information for the press. I advised SSA Holleran of the involvement of the press, and he stated that he would, in turn, release the information to region. SSA Herald and I assisted in the transport of the evidence seized pursuant to the warrant and cleared MPD after the press left the area. On Friday, 2nd June 1987, I met Detective Bradley at the warehouse at the 1st Street. I duly advised my acting group supervisor, SSA Don Bulworth. I was again granted unlimited access to the premises. I was able to observe numerous documents which described explicit sexual conduct between the members of the community known as Finder. I also saw a large collection of photographs of unidentified persons. Some of the photographs were nudes, believed to be of members of Finders. There were numerous photos of children, some nude, at least one of which was a photo of a child on display and appearing to ascend the child's genitals. I was only able to examine a very small amount of the photos at this time. However, one of the officers presented me with a photo album for my review. The album contained a series of photos of adults and children dressed in white sheets participating in a blood ritual. The ritual centered around the execution of at least 2 goats. The photos portrayed the execution, disembowelment, skinning, and dismemberment of the goats at the hands of the children. This included the removal of the testes of a male goat, the discovery of a female goat's womb and the baby goats inside the womb, and the presentation of a goat's head to one of the children. Further inspection of the premises disclosed numerous files relating to activities of the organization in different parts of the world. Locations I observed are as follows: London, Germany, the Bahamas, Japan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Africa, Costa Rica, and Europe. There was also a file identified as a Palestinian. Other files were identified by a member name or project name. The projects appearing to be operated from commercial purposes under front names for the Finders. There was one file entitled Pentagon Break-In, and others which referred to the members operating in foreign countries, not observed by me but related by an MPD officers, were intelligent files on private families not related to the Finders. The process undertaken appears to have been a systematic response to local newspaper advertisements for babysitters, tutors, etc. A member of the Finders would respond and gather as much information as possible about the habits, identity, occupation, etc. of the family. The use to which this information was to be put is still unknown. There was also a large amount of data collected from various child care organizations. The warehouse contained a large library, 2 kitchens, a sauna, hot tub, and a video room. The video room seemed to be set up as an indoctrination center. It also appeared that the organization had the capability to produce its own videos. There were what appeared to be training areas for children and what appeared to be an altar set up in a residential area of the warehouse. Many jars of urine and feces were located in this area. I should also mention that both premises were equipped with satellite dish antennas. I discussed the course of action to be taken by MPD with Detective Bradley. He stated that he was only interested in making the child abuse case. I was assured that all of the evidence would be available to the US Customs in the furtherance of any investigative criminal actions pursued. MPD personnel were to begin around-the-clock review and sorting of the evidence until completed. Customs will have access after this is accomplished. This will include several US passports discovered during the search. Upon leaving the 4th Street premises, I encountered a news media representative and was asked the reason behind US Customs involvement in the investigation. I advised the reporter that I could not discuss anything and referred her to the RACDC. I left immediately thereafter. There is no further information available at this time. It should take 3 to 5 days for all the information to be sorted, reviewed, logged by the MPD. I will maintain contact with Detective Bradley until the evidence is again accessible. 2nd of May, 87. On Thursday, February 5th, 1987, Senior Special Agent Harold and I assisted in the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department with 2 search warrants involving the possible sexual exploitation of children. During the course of the search warrants, numerous documents were discovered which appeared to be concerned with international trafficking in children, high-tech transfer to the United Kingdom, and international transfer of currency. On March 31st, 87, I contacted Detective James Bradley of the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. I was to meet with Detective Bradley to review the documents seized, pursuant to 2 search warrants executed in February 87. The meeting was to take place on April 2nd or 3rd, 87. On April 2nd, 1987, I arrived at MPD at approximately 9 a.m. Detective Bradley was not available. I spoke to a third party who was willing to discuss the case with me on a strictly off-the-record basis. I was advised that all the passport data had been turned over to the State Department for their investigation. The State Department, in turn, advised MPD that all travel and use of their passports by the holders of the passports was within the law and no action would be taken. This included travel to Moscow, North Korea, and North Vietnam from the late 1950s to mid-1970s. The individual further advised me of circumstances which indicated that the investigation into the activity of the finders had become a CIA internal matter. The MPD report has been classified, secret, and was not available for review. I was advised that the FBI had withdrawn from the investigation several weeks prior and that the FBI Foreign Counterintelligence Division had directed MPD not to advise the FBI Washington field office of anything that had transpired. No further information will be available, no further action will be taken. I filed formal complaint on 6 occasions with the FBI, demanding an investigation of the finders and the international trafficking of children who have been kidnapped or obtained through the subterfuge, orphanages, and on occasion the agency known as Child Protective Services, but the FBI refused to contact me. I have received 2 complaints from airline employees that airplanes containing several hundred children were flown to Paris, France, from Denver, Colorado, and Los Angeles, California. 210 children were reportedly on the manifest of the Denver plane. In addition, Paul Bonacci told me about children who were auctioned off in the early 1980s outside Las Vegas, Nevada, and Toronto, Canada. These children were auctioned off in their underwear with a number on a card around their necks, some for $50,000 each. 191 children assigned to the Child Protective Services in Florida are missing with no indication of their whereabouts. 100,000 children disappear each year in America. So what do you think? Why did they classify the information? Is FBI and CIA really trying to hide the evidence which points to their involvement in kidnapping, with further torture, rape, and other activities with children? Share your comments below and share this video with your friends who would like to know what they think too. And if you like these types of videos, then like and subscribe to keep up to date with all the new videos coming out each week.